Morning. Oh, hi, Molly. Nice to meet you. How
Meet you too.
you doing?
Pretty good, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So
Yes,
I think Kevin Brzezinski's representing you, is he not?
yes.
And that's Kevin right there.
How are you?
Yes, hello.
I just got your contract.
Yes, me too. No,
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you. I'm very excited. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Jess has been amazing. So.
Oh, yeah, she's good.
That's so good. It's amazing how much longer everything takes, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I have nothing to compare it to, so this seems like really quickly. So I was like, yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we only did the walkthrough yesterday morning, so yeah, it's been a whirlwind for sure.
Right. It is. It's crazy how we're doing it, but it's happening, you know?
Yeah, and again, like I'm happy to share, but it actually was a super good benefit for me because I'm out of state. So it would have been to fly home to do showings. You'd have to get them all at the same time. If a house is going to go quickly,
right?
By the time I get to New York, the house is sold.
I know we're still seeing that a little bit, not as much, and that's okay. That works to a buyer's benefit right now. I mean, it's good, you know. It's good stuff.
Tiffany, are you still cranking away with all the Zoom?
We really are. Yeah. I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 contracts since we've gone into quarantine.
Wow. Awesome.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's all about the conversations, and I really feel it's an opportunity for buyers and sellers right now. I mean, there's just so much opportunity, and the numbers are kind of showing it.
Sure.
But people have to be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. And I think that this is going to be life for for a long time. Even when we get back to normal, it's not going to be normal.
Right. Everyone's going to be coming back gradually, I think, with their different comfort levels.
Right. I mean, the open house idea, that's probably not going to happen for months and months and months when you think about it. I mean, that's people too close, especially when you have a hot property and you get 20 groups through. I mean, that's insanity. So,
Definitely.
I don't know. The thing that's been working out great with the virtuals is, somebody can do a virtual tour to really see if they like it before you physically, maybe if you can, coordinate it to actually physically see it.
Yeah, sure.
It weeds out the tire kickers and the looky-loos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think
technology is amazing.
And I think that if people are looking now, they're serious because it is a very time-consuming process right now.
True. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So we have Molly on here, and she actually just wrote a contract with Jessica on our team. She bought a house virtually, which is super, super cool. And I wanted her to kind of speak to that whole experience. And I see we have a couple more people popping in. And I think one of my sellers that we just went under contract with as well is going to pop in to kind of share the experience of selling her house virtually as well. Because I think if people can hear from other people that have done it successfully, it just is going to make them feel that much more comfortable about potentially, going in that direction.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of start. So I always like to start out by introducing everybody. I'm Tiffany Hilbert, Team Hilbert at Keller Williams Realty. I have Chris Stevens from Premium Mortgage with us. He's got the man with the facial hair right there. And the other man up in the corner, Kevin Brzezinski. He is with Block, Longo, LaMarca, and Brzezinski LLC Real Estate Attorneys. He's got facial hair working now as well. You guys gonna let it keep going throughout this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Might as well. See what happens, right?
Have some fun with it. Exactly.
Exactly. So first of all, this is just like an open forum, just kind of chit chat, kind of help each other out through this and just kind of take a look at what's happening in the market and see if we can answer people's questions. I always like to take a look at numbers because I think numbers are super important. Oh, hang on, somebody's sending me a chat. And the thing that's amazing is I went and I looked at last year, March 1st to today. and we had a total of 1,358 listings. 820 of those went to contract. So that was about 60% last year. And this is in Monroe County, existing only, no new construction, single family homes, condos, and townhouses, okay? Then this year, that exact same time frame, we had 950 active, 540 of those went to contract, so that's 56.8%. So it's only down 3.5%. I mean, to me, that's super positive news, right?
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, that's great. That's a health of a month and a week. So let's look at what's happened since April 1st last year, same timeline, April 1st to the 11th, and this year, April 1st to the 11th as well. So last year we had 458 things go live then. 131 of those went to contracts. So about 28% went to contract in that first 11 days. This year, 19% went to contract. So it's only a 9% difference. I mean, to me, that's still encouraging, right? Numbers are way down. I mean, we only had 168 properties come on the market in the past since April 1st. And only 33 of those have gone to contract. So we're about 290 listings light, which is pretty crazy considering this is the spring market and it's normally jamming crazy, right? But what it's saying to me is buyers are still buying and sellers are still saying, I'm here, I want to sell my house. I even went back to 2018 to look at the same timeline because we were still in a crazy market back then. And April 1st to the present of the 11th, there was 402 properties that went active, 146 went under contract. So it was healthier. They were at 36% of those actually going under contract. So we're about half of that from 2 years ago. I think we all thought we were still going to be trending closer to last year's numbers. I don't know, what were you guys thinking, Chris and Kev, from what you've seen?
We've seen a slowdown, obviously. We had a great March. And it slowed down. One of the things we're doing, we're seeing a pickup now, unfortunately, for agents is in refi business.
Yeah.
But one of the things we talked about yesterday with the loan officers is when the loan officers are getting calls for refinances, we're telling the loan officers to talk to the borrower about, hey, we understand you want to refinance for a lower rate, but this is still a great housing market. There's houses out there. People are motivated. This is what a payment would be on a new house. Don't get stuck in this if you're still looking. We're trying to push them to maybe buy a house still or wait until this is over and not get themselves stuck in a refinance and then say, oh, geez, I wish I didn't do that. Now I've got to stay here 3 more years. So we're trying to still get people away from the refinance and maybe wait till, I don't know, whenever this is over or do a virtual tour. But we're obviously, we're not a refi shop. We definitely want the purchases. So as we see more refis come in, we're really trying to, I shouldn't say not do them, but maybe see if we can motivate them to purchase though and wait.
We appreciate that. But the thing that me and my husband were talking about is people have been stuck at home. So they're either loving their house or they're hating their house right now. And to that point, if they're really hating their house and they're trying to do some renovations so they can get it on the market because they want to find an awesome house, because if this continues on, right, like we don't know what's going to happen with this whole virus thing, if it's going to resurge in our life next year or just how that's going to fly, if we're going to have to live in this world of social distancing certain times, I think we all want to be in a place where we like being, as opposed to being in a place that you're not digging. When I think about everybody that's living in an apartment or in a communal area, that's got to be getting so old. And I think we're going to see a ton of those people coming out of leases or trying to get out of leases to become first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
So I think that that's going to be a huge flood. And I think that people that have been on the fence talking about putting the house on the market, but they just kind of been, flip-flop and just, now they're really going to be like, yeah, I really do want to find a house that has X, Y, and Z that we've always wanted, because they'll have that opportunity to enjoy it, Yeah. So I think that that's going to be some stuff that we have a lot of good things to look forward to. So we have Molly on the line here, and I'm going to just unmute her, or maybe she muted herself. Hi, Molly.
Hi.
So Molly just went under contract last night, I think, buying a house virtually. She lives in Denver right now. And Molly, tell us about your experience. How did it fly for you buying a house virtually?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I think the virtual option was a really great option for me because I was remote. So trying to set up multiple showings and then having to fly home was kind of the idea. I worked with Jessica and she's been amazing. So we were thinking, do I kind of find some things that I like and then plan a week to fly home and kind of do that, was maybe our original thinking. And then with all this happening, that obviously changed some things. The virtual option was really great for me. Again, because I could do it more quickly as well for being out of town. So especially if there was a property that came up on the market that I fell in love with, if there was a chance that it was going to move quickly, by the time I book a flight and travel home, who knows how that would have worked out. So I really appreciated the virtual option, and was helpful that I had a lot of trust in Jessica. She was a good advocate for me. And also being a first-time home buyer, the whole process is a little confusing and you're not sure what to expect. So I at least didn't have another process to compare it to. So I enjoyed the virtual opportunity. It was really nice doing the walkthrough to be able to talk with the seller. I don't know if that's always the case that the seller's there, but from their perspective of what it's like to live in the house. And so got to ask, a little more personal questions of how are the neighbors or how is parking on the street if you have, a family get together and those sort of things that maybe the listing agent isn't as familiar with, or, just kind of what living in the footprint of the house feels like from the person who lives there. So I really like that personal aspect. And I thought, at least from my perspective, my seller did a nice job of walking us through and, opening doors as I would if I was there. So I was really impressed, and luckily the technology was super great. And it was a nice collaborative effort of the seller's agent, the seller, and then my buyer's agent. So, I still had that assistance if I didn't know what to ask. Jessica was great to chime in, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good question, So it felt like a smooth process doing it virtually,
That's great.
Yeah, obviously you miss a little bit of the feel of the home, as you can imagine, and kind of a little bit of the space, right? So the size of a bedroom when you walk in, it just feels different than on, a camera or a phone.
Right.
So a little bit, but I thought the seller did a great job of, compensating for that.
So you actually kind of felt like you had an interpersonal relationship or an experience with the seller, which is really kind of cool because you're going to be taking over their house that they've, have had a family, whatever it might be, and have loved where they've lived. And so they're kind of passing that down. So it's kind of a cool, like passing the torch thing almost that we normally don't get to have. So, I mean, that's actually kind of a cool thing too. So the thing that I think you also miss out on is like when you walk into a house, the smell or the sounds that you might hear, do you hear the traffic outside? Do you hear a train? Do you hear the floor creak when you walk up and down stairs? How like I always say to my sellers, let's try to be really particular about the spatial part. Like how high are the ceilings? How tall are you? What size bed is that? What size is your dining room table? That helps people a lot too, so they can spatially see, how big something is and how much room they might have as well. So I think that's awesome. So then after you did the virtual walkthrough, did you just kind of think about it for a little bit and then you just kind of mulled it over with Jess and then said, hey, let's do it?
Yeah. So I was pretty excited about the property. So I have been looking kind of informally for a while. And then my timeline to move home has kind of moved up. I was much more flexible a couple months ago, but really would like to be back in Rochester sooner rather than later. And then this property kind of checked all the boxes I would want and then some. And just really for a price that I was actually kind of surprised that I could find. So because the walkthrough went went through the walkthrough, went through, pretty well. I didn't see any red flags. Yeah, I just chatted with Jessica. I think, got her opinion and then felt comfortable to move fairly quickly. In this particular example, I thought the house showed really well. It was clear that they took great care of it. And, so I felt comfortable enough to put an offer in pretty quickly. Also knowing that, I thought it would move, the property would move pretty quickly.
Okay. So were you in a competing offer situation or no?
Yes.
Oh, you were. Okay. So even in a virtual situation, there were competing offers. So that buyer was buying it sight unseen as well.
Yes. Yeah. There were a few offers, and even I believe a couple offers in the works before I toured it as well. And
wow.
So, yeah, I think that it was only on the market for 24 hours or
right.
When I know of it. So I figured it was going to move pretty quickly. So if I liked it, I should. I needed to mull it over quickly. So.
Congratulations on that. That's awesome. So it was a rock solid written, contract. So you're able to compete against the others, which is fantastic. So when do you think you're going to be able to actually physically see the property?
So I think the tradition, we'll do the final walkthrough before the closing to make sure everything's still good. And that looks to be mid-July. So okay. It's actually great for my timeline. And
you're okay to wait until July to physically see the property?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just it would be fun to get in the property. I couldn't help but smile when you said folks in an apartment during quarantine, because that is me right now. So I was just saying this morning that I wish I could move in tomorrow instead of my small 1-bedroom apartment. So I'm anxious to get in, just to live in the home and whatnot, but I'm comfortable as a buyer not being able to quite yet.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So Kevin, from your perspective, that's probably a dream buyer for you, right? Like she didn't put in the contract, like, it's contingent on me physically seeing the property. So if somebody were to write that into their purchase offer, like it's contingent on seeing the property, what would be the right way to go about doing that?
Well, I had a conversation actually yesterday with an agent asking that same question, and I'm not sure if there's a right or wrong way. It's difficult. You have to the seller has to be comfortable with that clause in there and has to understand what it means, really, because it sounds innocent enough, but it could be used as a way for the buyer to get out. You don't want to extend it, but open-ended. You have to have some sort of a fixed timeline on it. And if I'm the seller's attorney, I'm going to try to get some language in there that, almost like a bump that allows us, if someone else along that doesn't want that contingency, it's more of a firm contract for the
right.
So Molly's the perfect client in that regard because, she's patient and she's going to wait till July even to get in there. So hopefully then we won't have this problem.
That's fantastic. Do I have Joanne on the phone?
Yes, you do.
Hi. So Joanne, we just sold her house virtually. So we listed her house the Saturday before we couldn't show any more houses. We got one person in the house physically, and then it went virtual. And her and I kind of practiced how she was going to go about through the house while we were doing a Zoom with buyers and their agents, and how she was going to show the property. And Joanna, tell us about your experience with that.
I thought it was great. It was really, I showed the house how I would have wanted to see it. So we kind of started outside, walking up the front step, kind of showing the things that are, nicer aspects of our home. Your prompting was always very helpful to say, hey, show them up the stairs, or, walk into the family room now. And just kind of walked through it how you might if you were just walking in yourself.
Yeah. And when we got that contract, they have not physically seen the property when they made their offer. They walked through it. They loved it. We answered their questions. She wrote an offer, and basically, they wanted to view the property, but how we protected our sellers were, all right, well, let's get through the inspection. Let's, first of all, get attorney approvals. Let's see the deposit so we know we've got some skin in the game. And let's do the inspection so we're through that process. And so now once we're that far into it, we felt confident that these buyers were serious buyers and they weren't just gonna, waste our time. What we did is we let them take a quick 7-minute walk through the house after the inspection. I stayed on FaceTime with them while they went through. So that was for the safety of my sellers. My sellers were out in their car away from the property. And I just kind of guided the buyers through. And of course, we had all safety precautions. They had masks on, they had gloves on, they had sanitized. We had all the lights on, most of the doors open, so there was a lot less touching going on in the property. And they fell in love with it. I mean, it was perfect. It really worked out well. Joanne, so how else have you felt about the experience so far, being virtual?
I think, when I think about it, I wonder if selling real estate will ever go back to how it was before. I think that we have purchased a new home and we purchased it virtually.
Yep.
So we have not seen our new house in person yet either. So, and yet I feel like we have a really good feel for what the property is and what it looks like. And I think with the help of a great realtor, you can feel very confident, much like that other buyer just said, that you know what you're getting, and that you can, if you have trust in them, that you can have faith that you are buying a great property.
I agree. No, that's great. They just bought a house out in Florida. They're heading down there this week to go check it out. So our fingers are crossed. It'll be amazing. It'd be nice to be quarantined down in Florida and have some nicer weather. That's for darn sure.
It'll be much better than looking at snow here. Yes,
right.
Agreed.
Right. So did you lock in on your rate down there already as well for your loan?
Yes, we locked in pretty much after the stay-at-home order came in, and our mortgage guy was telling us that rates were really all over the place, but we were able to lock in at a nice low rate pretty early. So yeah, we actually will close in probably another 10 days
Okay.
down there, so in Florida. So that'll be great.
Yeah, that's super exciting. That'll be fantastic. So hopefully everything goes smooth, and maybe by the time that they're getting ready to pack up and move, which I think is in the end of June, I think it is, or beginning of July, hopefully we have part of this ban lifted, so it'll be a little bit different experience for everybody moving forward. I mean, when you think about the movers, what they're doing right now, they're putting themselves, when you think about it, in harm's way. They're moving people's stuff. So I'm sure the precautions that they're taking are probably amazing. I would have to assume. So Chris, what are you seeing with interest rates right now?
So interest rates have really stabilized. When this first came out at the beginning of March, rates were all over the place as investors were trying to figure out what was going on. As the government stepped in and saw that there was an issue, over the last week and a half, it's really stabilized. The 30-year conventional is really stayed below 3.5%. And I think at Friday they were close to the low threes, 3.25, 3 1/8. And I think, from what we're seeing, they're probably going to stay there for a while. And same thing, I know when we spoke, I think it was last week, the FHA market was a little hectic. That's kind of come back as well. At least for FICO scores above 660, there's rates and things available now. It's still with the lower scores is a little difficult, but things are starting to come back now. And we're still hoping another week or two, the government will fix some other things to help bring that back. But the conventional rates are phenomenal right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, I mean, it's a great time for somebody if they're thinking about buying a home.
Yep.
I mean, you can take advantage of the fact that there's less buyers out there, so there's less competition. Every property has its own thing. I mean, like Molly said, there was a lot of people interested in that property. And the cream puff properties that are priced in that perfect sweet zone, 150 to 250 area, those things, they're gonna sell like this as long as they're cream puff. But I think as we start getting into higher price homes, you might see a little bit of a decline as far as the numbers of people looking at them. There's still some uncertainty out there, let's face it, as far as people's jobs and their investments and things too. So until we have a better grip on that, I think that's going to play a little bit, I would think, for some people making that purchase. Kev, have you seen a decline as far as contracts coming in, or what does that look like for you guys?
Oh yeah, I mean, just like you said with the numbers, it's about 300 listings down from a year ago. So yeah, it's been, it's not spring volume that we'd be used to. It's more, like the winter market that, but things are still going. And I have noticed, usually also the contracts that would come in this time of year would be aggressive 30-day, 40-day close. And that's now more of a rarity too. It's June, July, 60, 75 days out. But
Right.
even the ones that are coming in, I think we're going to have a quiet May closing wise, because just of the way these the dates are pushed out.
I noticed that too in the contracts that we've been writing them further out, 2, 3, sometimes 4 months, depending. Like we have some folks that are building homes right now and they're waiting, they want to stay in their homes right now until their home is done. But now there's a standstill on new construction. So that's thrown another wrench into things.
Right.
And hopefully that'll lift, depending on how things become essential and non-essential. Maybe they'll make that a little easier for the guys that are doing the construction part. If they are practicing social distancing, they'll be able to get some of these homes done. That's just going to kind of be a snowball as we progress through this process. But I do think as soon as, we lift a little bit on this social, we're going to just see a huge influx of things happening in the market. I think we're going to see tons of houses coming on, and the buyers are really going to start coming out, really looking at things as well. And I think the indications are pointing that way. How do you guys feel about that? Chris and Kev, do you think the
Yeah, I
same thing?
agree. I think we're, like I said before, this is a pause. It's not a stop. These are going to, like you said, kind of build up, and then, the wave is going to come, and we're going to stay busy through, through Christmas.
Right. I know. I just think that it's going to linger longer. I think all of us, all summer long, we're just going to be jamming. It's going to be really super busy.
Yeah.
And I was telling some people getting their house ready, I said, don't forget, school starts in September, and people still like to be in their homes and settled with their kids before school starts. So I think we're going to see a huge push of houses and that movement happening in May and June, even squeaking in the early part of July. So I think that's when we're going to have to make hay. We're going to have those, 2 to 3 months of just like jamming going, crazy. And then I think it might quiet a tiny titch, once the kids get into school. That beginning of September generally is, and I think it might still be. But then I think it's going to pick right back up again. And who knows what it's going to bring us into, November and December, which typically tend to be a little bit quieter in our market. We might see some serious surge happening then as well. Yeah.
Well,
What's that?
we think so.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to thank everybody for being on today. We had a very low showing, unfortunately. It's probably because it's a holiday weekend. But you guys, thanks so much. Kevin and Chris, thank you so much. Joanna and Molly, thank you. Does anybody have anything they want to add? I think we answered most of the questions that people were asking about. All right, guys, have a great Easter. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Take
Bye.
care.
See you all soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.